the U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it.
Is utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Nonsense.
This is one of the few countries in the world, the United States, that Netanyahu can actually travel to without being arrested because the United States refuses to sign on to the ICC, whereas many countries, Netanyahu would be arrested right now.
Peter? Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was happening?
It would be my...
Sorry, in case I was too quiet for you. The reporter asked, would the Palestinians be allowed to return to Gaza, return to their homes after they've been ethnically cleansed from the area by Donald Trump and the U.S. government? Would they be allowed to return? And here's Trump's response.
I hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell. It's been one of the meanest, toughest places on earth.
One reporter with a spine yells out, why did they leave? Because he's literally sitting next to a smiling Netanyahu as he says this stuff. He's like, my hope is they wouldn't want to return. But just let's just take him at his word for a second, that you move them and you hope they wouldn't want to return. Well, who's going to live there then? Who's going to be there? Oh, Israelis? You mean that all of the Gazans will be kicked out, all the Palestinians will be kicked out, and Israelis will live there? That is the dictionary definition of ethnic cleansing. And his speech right here and his talking, it actually furthers the ICC case, because one of the toughest things to prove with genocide and ethnic cleansing is intent. And Donald Trump is sitting there saying, no, our intent is to get rid of all Palestinians, move them out. That's our intent. And when you say it publicly like that, it makes actually the International Criminal Court case far easier, like 1,000,000 times easier when it's said publicly. So I guess for that, you can thank Donald Trump.
And right now, I've seen every picture from every angle, better than if I were there. And nobody can live there. You can't live there. So if we can build them through a massive...
You can't live there. Why can't you? Why is it unlivable in Gaza? Does it have anything to do with Netanyahu and Israel? Is there any kind of connection there? I mean, I don't know. Maybe we could brainstorm, sit around with a bunch of smart people, get Elon Musk over here. Maybe he'll be able to figure out why. And of course, I'm laughing. He's a psychopath too. But maybe we'll be able to get smart people in the room. Maybe we'll be able to figure out why Gaza is not so livable anymore. Because I'm not sure what it is. Not sure why it happened. Why is it so hard to live there?
Amounts of money supplied by other people, very rich nations, and they're willing to supply it. If we can build something for them in one of the countries, and it could be Jordan, it could be Egypt, it could be other countries, and you could build 4 or 5 or 6 areas. It doesn't have to be one area.
That was people's real concern. As you're doing your ethnic cleansing, are there going to be a lot of different areas for us to go to when we're ethnically cleansed? Or is it going to be just the one? Because, I have some family members I want some distance from. Yeah, thank you, Trump. That's the question people were asking. How many areas will they get to be ethnically cleansed into? The survivors. That was the big question at the front of people's minds right there.
But you take certain areas and you build really good quality housing, like a beautiful town, like someplace where they can live and not die, because Gaza's
again, it's the passive. Like they can live there and not die. Why are they dying? Oh, in Israel. That's why they're dying. That's why. You're sitting next to the man. In fact, if he were to handcuff Netanyahu to that chair and ball gag him and leave him there for the next 17 to 39 years, it would help Gazans immensely. Like, just handcuff the dude next to you and you would solve this problem. It's unbelievable.
Guarantee that they're going to end up dying. The same thing's going to happen again.
I guarantee they're going to end up dying. Let's rephrase that. I guaranteed Israel is going to assassinate civilians that are still surviving, that are still there. He just guaranteed that to the world. This is what I mean when I say Trump accidentally reveals the U.S. empire. Like, he doesn't even understand what he's revealing. He doesn't even understand the things he's saying are furthering war criminal cases and genocide cases in international criminal courts. Doesn't know.
Happened over and over again, and it's going to happen again as sure as you're standing there, Peter. So I hope that we could do something where they wouldn't want to go back. Who would want to go back?
And by the way, so this is, as I've said, dictionary definition of ethnic cleansing, moving everyone out of Gaza. I had said that this was largely Israel's aim in the first place. Yes, it is a genocide, and even if Israel stopped killing today, It's still a genocide. People like to pretend that genocide means you have to kill every one of them. No, every one of whatever your target people is. No, that's not how the definition of genocide works. Definition of genocide is trying to kill all or a part of a group of people. And so it's still genocide. Even if they stop today, it's still genocide. It seemed very much, and I think it may continue to seem this way, that Israel wanted to clear out Gaza so that it could take it over, because they do not want Palestinians, Gazans, those in the West Bank to be viewed as refugees, which is what they are. Because if they're viewed as refugees, then guess what? Under international law, in the minds of most people that are not sociopaths, refugees have a right to go back to where they're from if they have that capability. If they want to, if they have that right. But Israel doesn't want them to have that right, because then guess what? You can't have all the stolen land. And the people would come back and occupy the land where they were originally from. Many of them still have the keys to their houses that were stolen by Israel. Trump has accidentally made all this public.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years. I'm hopeful that this ceasefire could be the beginning of a larger and more enduring peace that will end the bloodshed and killing once and for all. With the same goal in mind, my administration has been moving quickly to restore trust in the alliance and rebuild American strength throughout the region. And we've really done that. We're a respected nation again. A lot's happened in the last couple of weeks. We are actually a very respected nation.
Oh, he has the best comedy sketches. Killer comedian. We are now respected again, folks. He has to let you know that, because otherwise no one would know that America is respected again, because they look around and go, nah. But he literally just publicly called for ethnic cleansing. He publicly said the United States is going to take over Gaza. He said we're going to level the buildings that are not leveled. So basically finishing the ethnic cleansing and genocide. And then he said that the people will be moved elsewhere. Let's hear from Francesca Albanese. Or is it Albanese? She is always one of the best and clearest voices on this genocide. And here is her response to Trump's statement.
President Trump, oh, where to start? The short answer to your question is what he proposes is utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Nonsense.
Is what?
Utter nonsense. Is nonsense. And it's unlawful. What he proposes, people talk of ethnic cleansing. No, it's worse. It's worse. It's forced displacement. Is inciting to commit forced displacement, which is an international crime. Forced displacement and further dispossession. And in the context of a genocide, it will strengthen the complicity in the crimes that Israel has been committing over the past 15 months and before. It's unlawful, immoral, and irresponsible. It's completely irresponsible because it will make the regional crisis even worse. And I truly hope that people will stay calm, will not panic, and will remember that the international community is made of 193 states. And this is the time to give the US what it has been looking for, isolation. We have survived 15 months of relentless bombing and killing, including through sniper fires. There is documentation of children who have been shot in the torso and in the head.
And the White House is now slightly walking it back. But I think the main reason they're walking it back, there's a couple of reasons. One is that the countries that Trump is saying should take in Palestinians have always said that they will not do that because they do not want to facilitate ethnic cleansing. One of the key countries being Egypt. Egypt has said that if this plan were to go through, they would rip up their peace agreement with Israel. And Egypt is no amazing humanitarian country, but they do not want to allow further ethnic cleansing of Gazans. And they have said this is a non-starter. These countries that Trump thinks are going to take in Gazans have said absolutely not. But then it seems the main reason they're now backtracking is just because all the Trump supporters, the Republicans, everything are like, wait, there's going to be boots on the ground, U.S. boots on the ground in Gaza, which is not something that a lot of Trump supporters like to hear, because if you're going to send people in to fix up Gaza and to get rid of, as Trump said, unexploded ordinances, that sounds a lot like the military. So here is from Consortium News. U.S. officials backtrack on Trump's illegal Gaza gambit a day after all hell broke loose in reaction to Trump's plan to remove 1.8 million Palestinians from Gaza, which he said the U.S. would rebuild. Administration officials began backtracking as it emerged that only Trump himself knew he would make the plan public. Marco Rubio, who's the Secretary of State, 4'2" Marco Rubio said on Wednesday that Palestinians would be allowed to move back in, which was not what Trump had said the day before. So, I mean, but also, could you imagine a country as disgusting, as morally bankrupt as the United States government moving all the Palestinians out of Gaza, fixing up Gaza to look beautiful, and then moving them all back in? Oh yeah, that just reeks of the U.S. That is exactly how we function all the time. We just rebuild places and then put the refugees back. God, I couldn't tell you how often we do that. During the White House press briefing, Leavitt, the new White House press secretary, showed photos in the briefing room of the destruction of Gaza, as though people needed to see what Israel had done, except this White House never admits that Israel did it. Well, neither did the last one, really. Consortium News says, as if the destruction was the result of a natural disaster rather than from the maniacal genocidal attacks by the state of Israel, fully supported by the United States. Trump, you see, is trying to provide disaster relief. It's a natural disaster. Israel bombing children is just a natural disaster. Who could have seen this coming? There was nothing we could do. What are we to do? Here's a quote from Trump. If we can get a beautiful area to resettle people permanently with nice homes and where they can be happy and not shot at, not be killed, not be knifed to death by Israel. Say those words. I would think that they would be thrilled, he said. I see a long-term U.S. ownership position in Gaza. Steve Witkoff, U.S. Special Envoy of the Middle East, said that Trump doesn't want to put any U.S. troops on the ground and he doesn't want to spend any U.S. dollars in Gaza. Well, that sounds like the opposite of what he was proposing. Besides, it's already U.S. dollars in Gaza. It's U.S. dollars in the bombs that drop on Gaza. He only told a beaming Prime Minister Netanyahu about it moments before they walked out on stage. The New York Times reported inside the U.S. government there have been no meetings with the State Department or the Pentagon or that as would normally occur for any serious foreign policy proposal, let alone one of such magnitude. There had been no working groups. The Defense Department had produced no estimates of the troops required or cost estimates. There was little beyond an idea inside the president's head. I mean, this is how insane he is. Wow. Such a lunatic on all levels. Saudi Arabia said it will not cease its tireless work to ensure the establishment of an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as the capital. The kingdom will not form diplomatic relations with Israel without this. It is nice that that Saudi Arabia is saying that they would not allow for this plan that Trump put out there. But Saudi Arabia's also been pretty shitty on stopping this genocide. It has not really stepped up to do much of anything. Trump had left no doubt on Tuesday that this would be permanent forced relocation of 1.8 million people in clear violation of international law. Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention prohibits the forced transfer of protected people out of or into occupied territory, and customary international law considers involuntary population transfers to be illegal. But the problem is that when presidents say things, they can often have ramifications, even if, as in this case, there is no planning, it's kind of half backtracked, there's been no effort to actually do what he said. It's still, the words can have ramifications. And here is one example. The Israeli war chief, the head of what we call the Defense Department, the Israeli war chief orders the army to plan for the voluntary departure of Palestinians from Gaza. Of course, even if people depart Gaza. It's not voluntary if you've murdered their whole family and blown up all their hospitals. That's not voluntary. That's killing them until they leave. And of course, many of them want to leave, right? Many, and it's understandable when you're being genocided. I think a lot of people want to get out of the way of a genocide. I don't think anyone can fault them for that. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said on February 6th that he has instructed the military to ready plans for transfer of large number of Palestinians to exit Gaza via land, air, and sea routes while parsing U.S. President Trump's calls to expel the Strip's residents to different countries. Katz said he ordered the Israeli army. I support President Trump's bold proposal. Residents of Gaza should have the freedom to leave and immigrate as is standard worldwide. Oh, now he wants them to have freedom. Now the head of the Israeli army wants Gazans to have freedom. Well, that's a new one. That's a first. Trump has been insisting on the idea of expelling the residents of Gaza to neighboring countries, namely Jordan and Egypt, both of whom have categorically rejected any mass displacement of Palestinians and rejected the president's calls. Trump says this, then you have Israel start to gear up for this type of thing, and it can start to take on a life of its own. Now, I've said this could be done positively, like let's say Obama or Biden gave speeches every day on ending the prison industrial complex, even if they can't just sign an executive action that ends the prison industrial complex. The speeches would have a major impact. You'd see the stock in private prisons tank. Like, it has an impact. Just the speeches have an impact. And if they actually gave the tip of a turd about, I don't know, the U.S. being the largest prison state in the world, or average people, or people struggling, or poor people, each of these speeches would have a major impact, but they don't. None of them do, because they're all psychopaths.